Hi, friends. I hope you're well. Today I'm going to be talking about Gameweek 25, and I'm also going to have a look at my current chip strategy, what I'm likely to do. I was actually thinking that this might be quite a short video, but I'm already now anticipating it's going to be quite a long one because I've been thinking about this week a lot about FPL. I think there's a lot of different choices and options for my team, and I've just my head's a bit of a mess. I'm a bit confused, not quite sure what to do. So I'm get it all out and have a look at it. Obviously, if you want to skip to a certain part, that's fine. If you just want to see the team, skip further forward. But here we go. Let's have a look first at how I did in game week 24. Game week 24 was a pretty it was an okay week. It ended up on a green arrow, and it was like the tiniest green arrow. My safety score was 72 points, which was the points that I scored. So it was about maybe a 1 or 2,000 place increase up the ranks. So I can't really complain too much about that. And the team overall did pretty okay. My biggest sort of mistake, if you want to call it that, was picking Darwin as my captain, because obviously Holland was the best captain to have this week. I think it would, and that slightly punished me because he was the overwhelming choice of most people. I think if you had Haaland, probably most people went for him. A little bit unlucky. Well, not really unlucky. Darwin is just he's not that consistent. I like him. I love him as a player. I think he's a fantastic player to watch. Really, that's why I wanted to go for him. Do something a little bit different. But he seems to get a lot of yellow cards as well. He's had 4 yellow cards in the last 4 games. So yeah, did get a goal, so not the end of the world. Haaland, obviously, with those 13 points. Had I gone for Haaland instead, would have had a better green arrow. The only other real decision this week was whether to play De Bruyne, and I got that early leak or early team news and decided to bench him based on that. I'm not going to go into loads of detail on team news. I've already kind of, team leaks and everything. I've already kind of talked a little bit about my thoughts on those. I don't like them, but they are something that at the moment it feels like you've kind of got to just, if you get the information, you use it. I don't think I'm going to be able to use any team news this next week because I'm going to be busy. So if there is team news, which no doubt there will be for Liverpool and City especially, I may not be able to act on it, which is a bit of a pain. So I'm probably going to set my team a little bit earlier than that, and I have to just hope. I'm probably might give me a big disadvantage, but never mind. That is what it is. And obviously this week actually my defense did pretty well. Um, for a change, Saliba scoring and Trent and Trippier with 4 points each. Trent is a bit of an issue going forward, though. Need to find out what I'm going to do with him. And the rest of the team, most of them basically returned. Garnacho didn't, and he was the one that I benched De Bruyne for. So that's how it ended up. Let's talk about chips then. So I've kind of sort of decided what I'm going to be doing for my chip strategy, and that could change. But I've kind of got a bit of a plan now of what I want to do if things fall into place. If things go a little bit wrong, I've got a bit of flexibility and I could change the plan. But let's have a look at it. So first off, I think I'm almost certainly going to triple captain this week, and the reason for that is that I just think, two of the best teams in the league have doubles, and they're quite good doubles. So that's Liverpool and Manchester City, and it just looks like an overcomplication to put it on anyone else other than a Liverpool or a Manchester City player. It's likely going to end up on Erling Haaland, although I quite like the idea of putting it on Darwin Núñez. I just think he's not as consistent as Haaland. Haaland, I mean, it could go wrong either way, however you look at it. And I know a lot of people are going to go for Erling Haaland. I like to do things not quite as template. My team ends up being template, even though I don't really like it that way. Sometimes just looks like, well, those are the best players, the players that I actually want. I sometimes I resist the template, and sometimes I just think, oh well, I think that's probably the best decision, or because I even though I don't, this is that balance of enjoying the game, doing your own thing, but also it's quite nice when you are scoring points too. So I just think Haaland is probably the sensible choice to go for this week. And if I thought that Arwin was going to start both games, I probably would put it on him, but I don't think he will. Or I think his minutes will be reduced. Salah could be back. It sounds like he will be back, so that could reduce some of Darwin's minutes. They also have their cup final against Chelsea. I think that's after the Luton game. So I just don't think he's going to get the same number of minutes. And Erling Haaland, although he played 90 minutes against Copenhagen, he played 90 minutes I think against Brentford the other day. Whenever he's the only player for Manchester City that you can say this about. When he's fit, he seems to play. He seems to start. Yes, maybe if Manchester City are winning comfortably, he can come off early. But it just looks like a no-brainer on the captaincy, on the triple captaincy, and the captaincy this week. So that's probably the way I'm going. I was having an interesting discussion this week on Twitter because I saw this team someone had placed and said, you know, they got a pretty good bench. And they were saying, should I bench boost this? Got a lot of replies and loads of people saying yes, basically. And I said no. Well, I didn't say no. I was looking at it and saying, yeah, it's a pretty good bench boost. You could bench boost, but I think triple captain's better. Now he came back and said, well, do you think 3 times Haaland points is better than 2 times Haaland points plus bench boost? And the thing to remember is, no, I don't necessarily think that is the case, but I think what you've got to do is you've got to work out when the best place to use each chip is. So, yes, the bench boost this week could get more points than the triple captain chip, but that's not the point. The point is about maximising the points over the whole season. So let's say Haaland gets 10 points and the bench gets 20 points. So if I captain him, I get 20 points. I don't get the bench points. If I triple captain, I'll get 30 points. Okay, so all I get is an extra 10 points. That's all. So that's what that chip's worth. An extra 10 points, or an extra 2 points if he only gets 2 points. An extra 100 points if he gets 100 points, which he's not going to. But so, but if so that means, yes, if I use the bench boost, I'd get 20 points plus 20 points for the bench. That would be 40 points. So it would get more points this week than using the triple captain. But I just think that the bench boost, I could get more points somewhere else. And if I could get 25 points or 30 points or something, I just think that people are looking for other places to use the triple captain, and it's a great week to use it this week. And the other thing about the chips is you want to. It's not only how many points they get you in a given week. It's also about how it allows you to manage your other team, your team throughout the other weeks, and get the most points through those as well. So if you can use something like a free hit or a wild card in a particular position, and it means because if you are going to bench boost, but you've used loads of chips to get to that point, then I'd question whether it's really worth it. Because if you get a few extra points, but you've had to use a load of hits, or you've had to use transfers in places where the rest of those weeks you could have had more points, then it might not actually be worth it overall. You could have got more points from not bench boosting or bench boosting a weaker bench, but having a better team overall for the rest of the weeks. So it's a bit of a complicated one. But yeah, anyway, rambling on a bit, but let's move on. So triple captain in game week 25 is what I'm looking like. My current plan is to free hit in 29. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I just think that makes sense at the moment. We don't know what the fixture is going to look like, and that could change if Manchester City and Liverpool or one of them gets knocked out, or another team where I've got a lot of those players at that point, then that could change the whole plan, and I'm flexible on it. If it looks like I've got 8 or 9 players for that week, then maybe I won't free hit, because it could be useful in 34 or 37 or in another week. it could be very useful and could score me more points. But again, what I was talking about there, I think that it allows me to have a better team for the in between weeks. I can get through game week 26 quite okay. Hopefully I should have 11 players unless there are more injuries if I manage my transfers for this week well. And I should also be able to maximize points hopefully in this double game week of 25. So that means, but I could just use normal transfers up until that point to get through 29, and that seems to be what a lot of people are looking at doing. But I think that might mean compromising on the number of points I could get, and also compromising on the players that I want to bring in, because I want to have a fun team that I like and that I enjoy. So I don't want to necessarily bring in a load of Aston Villa, West Ham, Wolves players, although I don't mind having one or two of those. Got nothing against those teams, and if they're good players, that's fine. But I don't want to just end up with only restricting myself to picking from a few teams. So I think game week 29 looks like a very good pick for a very good thing to use, a time to use the free hit. Get my words out. But obviously that's subject to change, and if there are some big upsets, then it loses some of its value there, and I could definitely use it somewhere else. So at the moment, that's the plan, is free hit 29. So next chip would be wildcard. That's probably, I think most people would agree, the most powerful chip in the game. I think a lot of people will look to use it in game week 30 or 31, and that's quite good. It looks pretty good. I've got a little bit of a different plan at the moment, where I'm thinking I use it in 33 or 34. And I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, well, that's too late. You're not really maximizing the use of it." I I'm not sure. I think I really like this idea, and it hinges on all of the favourites getting through the FA Cup to the point where they have blanks in 29, which means they have to be rearranged into 34 and 37. And I think then that gives you an opportunity to wildcard in 34, and then you can really maximise the doubles in those weeks and the good fixtures towards the end of the season. It means that you can then bench boost in 34 or 37 and have really good bench boost. Obviously, that could all go wrong if those teams don't get through and things. And so again, if my team all goes wrong before that, I'm not I'm not against just wildcarding if I need it earlier or in a different situation, maybe in 27 or in 30 or whenever. But I just think this might be a good way of really maximising towards the end of the season. And in 30, I don't see a massive. There was some fixture swings, but I think there's more. It might be more useful in 33 or 34 to manage those double weeks. So that's what I'm thinking at the moment. Let me know if you think that's a stupid idea or whatever. And that would mean leaving my final chip ideally until game week 37. There are some kind of perils associated with that, because if a team, let's say Manchester City, but it could be Arsenal or Liverpool, have kind of sewn up the league towards then, they've got a big lead by then, it may be that there are some teams resting different players, and some teams by that point might not have anything to play for anyway. Maybe they're kind of just in mid-table and they haven't really got a lot to play for, so you could see some rotation. But it's going to be the biggest double game week, and I think there's an opportunity to, especially using that wild card late, to end up with a lot of doublers in that week. And obviously this could go wrong, because you could end up with injuries and other things like that, rotation, this could happen. But I think the upside is there, and to try something a bit different and go for that. Well, I think a lot of people might go for bench boost, but using it with the wild card, I think really may allow you to get some good players in for that period, Possibly. So that's what I'm kind of thinking of. Yeah, that's the plan so far. Obviously, it could all change when everything goes wrong and my team falls apart. Anyway, sorry for rambling on there, but I think it's important to kind of look at what the plan is with chips because it really kind of then dictates what a lot of your future moves are going to be, what my transfers, where some of my thoughts are with what I'm trying to do with this 25 game week 25 team. So this is my team at the moment. I have a little bit of a problem with the defence because I've got Trent and Guahi who are both flagged. Really, and as I said before, I may not be able to. I'm going to be away this weekend, so I don't think I'm going to be able to listen to team news or anything. I'm going to be busy enjoying myself, so I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be worrying too much about FPL, but instead, so maybe I've already will have made these decisions, but a lot comes down to whether or not Trent is fit or not. Because if he's not going to be fit for the Brentford game, it feels like it's probably worth doing a transfer out. Next week, I will have. Well, if Guay was fit, I would have 10 players. So it's a bit annoying that he's got a knee injury, unknown return date. So I don't think he's going to be fit for any of the games and this week or next. So that means probably transferring him out, but I could do transfer someone else out. What I really need to do is make sure that I've got at least 10 players for next week. So then that leaves my free transfer that I can make a change on one of these players that doesn't play. So the players that don't play next week are the Liverpool players, Alexander Arnold and Darwin, as well as the Tottenham players, Richarlison and the Chelsea player Palmer. So I could then do next week a transfer for one of those players if I wanted. And my preference at the moment might be, looks like I could be Darwin to someone else. If Solanke had a slightly better fix, this is next week I'm talking about, so hopefully this isn't too confusing. If Solanke had a slightly better fixture next week, I'd maybe go for him, but he's playing Manchester City, so I might be Darwin to Acuna or someone like that. Anyway, so I need to sort out the defence. I mean, if it looks like Trent might be okay, or at least start one of the games, then I can leave him in, and that then means that it's likely going to be a transfer for either Guahi, yeah, maybe I just do a Guahi transfer for a defender that has a double game week, but then I would need to probably bench Saliba in that case, unless I bench Garnacho. So it gives me a little bit of a benching issue. So it means I could bring in, and if I wanted to bring in a double game week defender that also has a fixture in 26, it has to be a Manchester City or a Brentford player. So if it's Brentford's double isn't great, but I don't mind bringing in Reguilon because I think he's got some attacking upside and he's got 2 fixtures, so I don't hate that. And he has a decent-ish. Well, he's got a fixture next week anyway. Can't remember who it's against, but it's. I don't think it's too bad. So the other one would be Manchester City, but who on earth do you bring in? Which defender is going to play all 3 games, if any? Well, Ake has played a lot of games recently, and he also started and played 90 minutes in against Copenhagen. So he's an option, but would it be surprising if if he was then benched in 25? The thing about bringing a City defender in is it would be so annoying if they were benched in 26. I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if they were benched in one of the games, one of the 25 game week, and this probably makes no sense because it's still 2 games, but it just wouldn't seem as bad if they start one game and especially if they come off the bench in the second game. But let's say if they don't play at all in the second week, then I've only got 10 players, and that just seems a bit annoying. I don't like that. So I don't really think I'm going to go Manchester City defender. I could get Ake, but I can't. If I do, it depends which moves I do because I haven't got much money. I've only got zero point 0.8 million in the bank. Obviously, two free transfers. So Regulon I quite like. Doughty is quite a good one to bring in. I quite like bringing him in, but he doesn't play next week, which makes it a bit of a pain. He has two games this week. Luton keep conceding quite a lot of goals though. I think they've conceded 7 in the last two games. So, but on the other hand, he takes corners and he's got that attacking threat. He's a good player. He seems, he's. I think he's the arguably the best Luton player to have, although maybe an attacker's better with these particular fixtures. So I'm not against bringing him in, but that would mean I do need to bring in another player who has two fixtures. So if Trent is out, it gives me a lot more options because I could get someone like, I could go to another Liverpool defender, Van Dijk. I think he's really good option. He hasn't got the same attacking threat, but he sometimes pops up from corners, scores the odd goal now and again, not very often. The other one is Connor Bradley. If we know Trent is definitely out, then Connor Bradley's likely to start games, and he's played very well recently. He's very cheap, so I could do Trent down to another. I could go for a single game week player if I wanted to. I don't think I'm going to go there. I just want to maximise these fixtures. So if I did Trent to, for example, Doughty, it means my second transfer has to be someone who plays in game week 26, really, because I don't want too many blankers. So but it does give me an option. It gives me more money and means that I could transfer out Richarlison or Palmer. I'm edging Palmer at the moment because Palmer's got Manchester City this week and blank next week. So I could transfer him out, and it really means I could get Jota or Foden or most midfielders. I don't think I could get up. But those are the ones that I'd really consider anyway. Those are the most expensive two that I'd consider. So that's really good. The Jota one obviously gives me a player that doesn't play in 26. So that means that I'd have to really do the Trent move to someone who does play. So that realistically might be Reguilon or another Brentford defender. So I'm not sure about that. So it could be like, say, Reguilon or Pinnock and Jota in for Trent and Palmer. I can do that. But then I have to choose who to bench. And it would be out of Gross or Garnacho. I'm not sure whether João Pedro is still out, but if he is still out, I think that I want to play Gross against Sheffield United. I think that's the best fixture. One of the best fixtures. I know it's away, but I think I will play him ahead of Garnacho, especially if he has penalties. So it would mean benching Garnacho, who has a good fixture against Luton. So, I mean, it is what it is. What else could I do? I had been looking at there are loads of different options. I'm really not quite sure exactly which is the best way to go. But I could do a goalkeeper transfer to Kaminsky, which I quite like. I think it would be Areola because I've got Areola I can sell for more money. And that leaves me Dubravka playing Arsenal next week because Kaminsky doesn't play. But Kaminsky has another double, and it's much better double against. I can't remember the teams, but it is against Bournemouth, and I think it's Crystal Palace in 28. So that's an extra fixture. That's quite good. But obviously he doesn't play next week, but that doesn't matter because I don't have to play him next week. So because he's not in my starting 11, I can just play my other goalkeeper. So that's quite good. I quite like that. But I'm not sure whether that's quite as good as or as exciting as some of the other moves. So I've already said that Doughty is an option for either Guay or Trent. Other options then I mean, it could be. I quite like bringing Foden in for Palmer. Could be another Manchester City player. Grealish got injured last night, so does that mean Doku's likely to start? Well, Doku hasn't been starting that often, so this is a left field one. Alvarez, and feel free to laugh at that, but Alvarez could be a good one to bring in. But it would mean having to get rid of Watkins, and Watkins got a good fixture against Fulham away. He's got decent fixtures going forward. He's just scored that 18 pointer, and he didn't. What did he do last week? He didn't do much, did he? Um, or did he score? Hang on, I'm confusing myself. No, he did nothing. See, this is the thing. So maybe that's partly on my mind why I'm thinking, yeah, now transfer him out. When he scored 18 points, like, no, I'm not transferring him out. So Alvarez could be an option because Alvarez also plays against Bournemouth next week. And I quite like that. And I think Alvarez will start at least one of those games. He played well against Brentford. Um, he was on the left and Foden was on the right. So could he do that against Chelsea? I'm not sure. And I think he's a bit more of a differential now. So I quite like that because I think most people will have sold him to either Haaland, Darwin, or Tony. So this is I'm quite liking that. I don't think I'm going to do it, but it is an option. Um, I think bringing a Manchester City player in looks good, but I don't want a defender. So my options are really Foden. I think their real options are Foden or Alvarez. But that means taking out Watkins. The other option is to get Tony, and I think the way I'm thinking, no, I don't want to do that. But if I was on a free hit, I would definitely have Tony, and I would think I would have the same other two forwards. So that tells me maybe it's better to do that. And I could always, I don't think I could quite reverse it. It depends if I've got the Trent money. The other thing to consider is Salah looks like he's back. So does that impact other minutes for the Liverpool players? Yeah, it probably does. I think in the last game that Diaz played on the right. Is that right? So maybe it's just that Diaz just is the one that's most affected. And Diaz isn't really in my thoughts anyway because I can afford Jota. I'd prefer Jota. He's just more dangerous and more explosive. But on the other hand, he seems to be the one that misses out a lot when all the others are fit. Maybe that's changed a bit with the way he's been playing, and he's been playing kind of through the middle and Darwin on the left. I think Darwin's first choice, but obviously I do think with that cup game as well that there will be some rotation with the Liverpool players anyway. So unfortunately, I just can't get to Salah really, realistically. I could do it if I got rid of Trent and De Bruyne. I'm not sure that's worth it. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. There's a lot going on there. As I say, I think the most likely moves will be if Trent's injured, Trent out for someone, and it, and if I'm doing that, I think the opportunity to go Palmer to Foden is pretty good. I mean, it makes it a bit of a template team because a lot of people will have Foden, De Bruyne, and Haaland. So what? I mean, that is what it is. I think I'd quite like to have that team, or it could go Jota. Um, and it looks like if I were going down that route, I'd probably go get Regulon. So maybe Regulon and Foden in. If he's not in, if Klopp says no, he's going to be all right, and I may not know this, so I may have to make a bit of a guess. Then he stays, and who knows what I do. I think he stays, and I probably do Guahi to Regulon because he's, and then I'd feel like I'd have to play him, so I'd have to bench Saliba, which I don't particularly like. I might bench Garnacho because I think Saliba might be more likely to score points than Garnacho. Arsenal looked brilliant against West Ham. I know people said West Ham were awful, and they were for the set pieces. But Arsenal just were really good. They didn't really give them a sniff, and they just played very, very well. Looked solid defensively as well. So, yeah, don't really know at the moment. Let me know what you think I should do and what you're going to do for this week. So, good luck for game week 25, everybody.